So now that we finish drawing this out, what we want to do is we want to choose two colors, and we want them to be complementary. So I am choosing blue and orange for mine. Again, it doesn't matter what two complementary colors you choose. So, for instance, red and green, yellow and violet. If you have a bigger class pack, you could do like yellow, green, and red, violet. Again, think about your color wheel and then choose colors that are opposite of each other on there. So if you wanted to do something a little bit different, like so blue orange, or excuse me, blue green and red orange would be complementary as well. So if I had those colors, I probably would have picked those, but I didn't. So I'm going to work with this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off in the center, and I'm going to color every other one blue. However, I'm not just going to color it solid. What I am going to do is I'm going to focus on keeping it light in the middle and then getting it dark along the edge. So what that looks like is I'm going to take and just do the sides. So I'm going to press a little bit harder on the sides, start to back off a little bit towards the middle. So it has a little bit of a gradient going on in there. So what that looks like on a bigger scale is if I come out here, and I'm going to do every other one in this row that way. So I'm going to, again, give myself that little outline of the edge. So it's like I'm doing a value scale on each of these, from the left and from the right. So you can see how it gets a little bit lighter there. So I'm going to skip one. I want to be really careful with my lines. So sometimes I go sideways, horizontally, and then sometimes I work up and down too. And you can almost have them touch kind of like that. So once I would continue doing this whole row, so I might just mark these off so I remember, so that can help me. However, in this, and the ones that are next to it, I'm actually going to do the opposites. So for instance here, I'm not going to do the middle one, and instead I'm going to work basically in between. So today, focus on using one of your colors and getting in, a couple, maybe different, like probably try to go for 2 to 3 segments for today is your goal, coloring them in. Following again, making sure that you keep that middle kind of light, so really try to back off on the pressure. We don't want to see a hard line like you can see there, so I'm going to try to see if I can erase it a little bit. I have no idea if I can. Try to keep it so we don't see a ton, we don't see a hard line, we just see it's nice and softly blended. So again, I like to work sometimes sideways, and then I come back over top of that up and down. And again, I'm going to back off on my pressure ever so slightly. And do the same thing, work sideways over here, and then follow up and down. Backing off on that pressure as I work to the middle. Making sure I stay inside my lines and try not to get outside of them. And as I continue my way up, again, I would probably work in one row all the way before I were to switch to the next one. Just so that way, like here, obviously, which one would I do? Sometimes it's going to get it might get a little tricky if you're not too sure, if you kind of try to keep jumping around. It also works this way because if you finish a segment first, maybe you messed it up, you can easily somehow like fix it basically. So again, just make sure that your sides you have really firm pressure, and then as you work to the middle, you've backed off on your pressure somewhat. And just make sure you're going the full length of each segment. Continue your way. So as you do work your way up, one of the things to keep in mind is obviously this side is getting cut off. So it gets a little tricky, but make sure that you are still breaking down and creating that value scale to basically stay halfway through the middle. So you can see right here, obviously I'm making sure it kind of stays in line with where I was at. And so it will get a little bit darker come this way, but it won't get super dark like it would if it was ending. So just kind of keep that in mind as you add in your values on the back end of these, that you want to still continue to follow that same pattern. So as I work on this one, same thing. I'm going to try to keep that really light here, because this whole section where it's ending basically would be a lot lighter. And then it gets darker to the edges still. And final one on this segment, same thing. This one actually might be dark for most of it, with a little bit of pressure backing off. So once I finish that, again, I'm going to continue working over here. So this one's going to look a little confusing because obviously it's going to be really close to touching that one. If you are really close to the edge of your sketchbook, I have a perforated line, so I'm just kind of going over that fairly quickly right there, but don't feel like you have to go all the way to the border. So your goal for today is to make sure that you get 3 sections with one of your complementary colors completed. So as you can see, the 3 sections, we're talking about the large sections, not just tiny ones. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm also just checking to make sure in these sections that my lines are nice and clean and neat, my edges are clean, and that my values have all blended out and are light in the middle and dark along the sides.